Sean, you have 10 seconds to clap your hands. You have 10 seconds to comply and tell us what we're looking at today.
Today, Dan, we are looking at, from Plug-in Alliance and Louder Than Liftoff, the Silver Bullet Mark II.
Okay, let's find out. Is it? Very good.
Yes.
And for anyone that got the reference there, Silver Bullet did...
20 seconds to comply.
Was it? Oh no, it's a 10.
It's close.
RoboCop, is it?
Half as good.
Is
It was a sample from RoboCop, yeah.
Yeah. Great film.
I worked on a version of that back in
What,
19...
RoboCop?
No.
I sort of recognise the...
20 seconds to comply.
Yeah.
No, nothing to do with RoboCop, but I did work with Silver Bullet back in 1990.
There you go. Take us through the audio features of the Silver Bullet.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. So this is a piece of hardware that has been modelled into software. And a few people have asked us to look at this. It's not new. It's been out a while. But some people absolutely swear by it. So it's like, okay, it's time to have a look. So what is it? It's basically, it's like a Mojo box for your master bus. And it's like one of those, put this on, tweak this, tweak that, everything will sound better. And there's some truth in that. So let's go through it. Starting on the left, obviously we've got the power on, and you can then choose which of the modules are available for use by flicking that switch. And you've got a bunch of things. So you've got what are called Mojo amps. You've got A and B. Mojo amps is basically like saturation, different kinds of saturation. You've then got C, which is color, which again is kind of saturation, but different kinds. And the Mojo section C has this little thing down here where you can choose between different tone shaping EQs. So you've got, say EQs, they're just kind of things that it's running the signal through. There's like one of them is called a helical scan, one of them is called the hit maker. They got different names, and it shows you a little picture of the little circuit, and that's just C here. We then have the tone shaping EQ section, which is really quite nice for a simple EQ. First of all, you've got this button that says tight. When you press that, that's a 12 dB high pass filter, and it can be set at 25 or 50 by that switch there. You then click tone on, and you've got a very simple EQ. So you've got a low frequency. You can choose between body, bass, sub 1 and sub 2. That's just setting a frequency, and then you tweak it more or less. You got the same for the high frequency, but you have things like sheen or bright, or whatever the setting is, it's slightly adjusting the frequency, and then more or less. You've then got an air control, bit similar to the Marg EQ. You then have a button that says vintage, which is a 6 dB low pass filter, and you've got an aspect ratio button. That's weird, right? Aspect ratio would normally refer to video or something, but what that is width. You basically give that a poke, and it adds some stereo width, and you can experiment with it on or off, obviously.
Is it just on or off?
It's just on or off, but it's really interesting, and it does sound a little bit different to what you're used to hearing for that kind of mid-side process, as it sometimes is. We then got some other things down the bottom here, so you can gain link between left and right. You've then got a circuit bend, which is really weird. Circuit bending is when people take things apart, mess with the circuit to get new sounds out of it. It kind of does exactly that. You've got a couple of different settings where it sounds very wacky. Not sure it's particularly useful in master bus usage, but maybe for putting samples through, doing some crazy shit, that could be useful. You've got the Dyna Realism. That is basically their version of TMT. So it's how similar left and right are. There's a few different settings for that, and you can also set it's basically like a rate control for how much it wavers on one of those settings. That's what the depth and the rate's for. We've got headroom control. That's really useful to get more headroom if you're working with something and you just think, I just wish I had a few dB more to play with. You can just dial it in. Yeah, that is basically what it is.
Interesting.
It is
interesting.
It's really interesting when you start playing with it.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's...
What did you use it on?
I pretty much exclusively used it on a drum bus and then on master bus. It's really interesting.
A colour box, you say they call it. Just gives it a bit of...
It's just adding...
A bit of je ne sais quoi.
It's
a bit of zhuzh.
Yeah, exactly that. And the fact that they call it Mojo, it's like... I couldn't think of a better way to describe it. It's really subtle.
A bit of Judge Michael.
Yeah, but it's one of those where, so let's say you're using it in a mastering situation, you drive up a little bit of A, a little bit of B, a little bit of C, EQ it to sound a little bit fatter, and you think, right, okay, live with it for a minute and then turn it off. Then it's like, oh, this isn't gone.
Right.
The vibe is gone. It's really interesting in that once you've used it, it's very hard to imagine not using it. Where have you gone with that one?
No, it doesn't matter. A bit like cocaine. Apparently.
There's some similarities. Yeah.
Very, very good. And
Yes.
so where do you get it?
Plug-in Alliance.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got your 14 day
days,
demo.
of course. Which means it's going to be an extortionate amount of money
Yes.
in real world.
Yes.
And then it's going to be a reasonable amount of money
On sale.
in the currently.
Yes.
And then at some point it's going to be next to nothing.
Yes.
Okay, so take us through those three figures.
Okay, so the big figure.
Yeah.
The usual price is $349.
Foxtrot Oscar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do one with that. Currently in the sale, $39.99. I mean, those two prices have nothing to do with each other, do they?
No.
Yeah. And at some point it'll be $29.99.
Yeah. I mean, I would, from what your description of it, I
Yes.
could get a pretty good sort of audio image of what it's going to be doing in my
My
mind's ear.
Do you remember we looked at the oven?
Yes, I do.
It reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Similar vibe.
Yeah.
God,
that's a good memory.
there you go. It was a while ago, a few years ago. I think if you had this and like the SSL, what do they call it? The Fusion. That's a pretty powerful package together.
Yeah.
Those two bits of kit. I'm really interested now to hear a hardware one of these.
Yeah.
Because if it's like this, but like 5% better, which hardware things normally are, I might be really interested in that.
There you go. There you go. So, Sean, is the Plug-in Alliance Silver Bullet
Yes.
shit?
No, it's not. It's really, really interesting. I think it's one of those, look, I can't describe to you exactly what it does. It just adds Mojo in slightly different flavours and you get to mix them in slightly different ways until you find the thing that works for your track. Sprinkle a bit of nice EQ
Bit of
over
magic
the top.
dust.
It's a
And
bit
we're
of
not
magic
talking about
dust.
the cocaine.
No, we're not.
Okay, very good, very, very good. So please don't forget to like the. We've done everything. Yeah, don't forget to like the video.
Yeah, maybe subscribe to the channel or become a channel member.
A gram of Insta Studio Live 101.
We also have a top 5 plugins and we have a mastering course and a mixing course and a compression course, whole bunch of stuff. And there's also another channel if you want to watch us talking about other stuff, not to do with this. We do that and it's all down there somewhere.
Go and have a look. Until next time, sayonara, suckers.
Adios.